Spider-Man Homecoming. Let's get right into this because I got a lot to say. Not just about the movie, but about the state of the Spider-Man franchise separate from the MCU. Because the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer dropped recently. And so I do want to get into that. But this is my volume 3 of my Avengers collection. Everything from Captain America Civil War through Black Panther. You can see right there. And obviously Spider-Man Homecoming right there. I don't think a collection like this will maybe come out. You know, the MCU they put out for Phase 1 and Phase 2, they're box sets. Really cool box sets. Like the briefcase that Nick Fury carries is the Volume 1. And then Volume 2 is the orb from Guardians of the Galaxy. Very cool, but very expensive now. Like, they're out of print. Thousands of dollars to get those now. But Spider-Man Homecoming is a unique movie, not only in the MCU, but in cinematic history. In that Homecoming is owned by, Spider-Man is owned by Sony. People get confused. They think like, well, it's Marvel, so Spider-Man Marvel should be able to use him. Sony owns Spider-Man. They bought the rights back in the 90s. They own the rights to him. That's why all the movies, the Tobey Maguire movies, the Andrew Garfield movies, and even the Tom Holland movies, they have the Sony logo in front of it. It's why Sony gets the PS4 game. So, I kind of want to get just the review part out of the way. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I wasn't sure who was the best Spider-Man because I love Tobey Maguire. I think Tobey Maguire, those to some extent, it's much like Christopher Reeve as Superman, Michael Keaton as Batman. Tobey Maguire will probably always be my Spider-Man. But I think Tom Holland probably is the best Spider-Man. It's a little bit like, I back in the day railed against Mark Ruffalo being the Hulk. Edward Norton, to me, was a much better Bruce Banner. But I have to admit that Mark Ruffalo has grown on me as the Hulk. Not really as Bruce Banner, but as the Hulk he has. Tom Holland is Spider-Man from my childhood. He's the Spider-Man from the comics. He's, quippy, he's funny, he's geeky, he's, they got 2 out of 3 of the Spider-Men they got right. Andrew Garfield was an emo Twilight hunk. Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland are, if you just saw their faces, you're like, no, not necessarily, you would not suspect that they were supermen. Spider-Man Homecoming takes place after Captain America Civil War. Spider-Man is being mentored by Iron Man. He's been given a high-tech suit. Some people have a problem with that because it's got an Iron Man kind of AI in it. I actually think it works because for once there's a reason for him to have the suit. In the other 2 versions of the franchise, he just one day has a suit. This amazing suit that apparently a high schooler just made. Here there's a reason for him to have it that's believable. He fights Michael Keaton's Vulture in this movie. Michael Keaton is one of the better MCU villains. He's barely a villain. I almost root for him. He gets screwed over by the man, and you kind of want him to win. You kind of want him to be successful. So that's the best kind of villain. You've got Peter Parker dealing with high school and the girl that he likes, and somebody early on said they were trying to make a John Hughes movie. this feels like it could have been directed by John Hughes. Uh, a lot of little nods to the MCU throughout. It's a it's a it's a fun little Spider-Man movie. It's not, however, a consequential movie. There's something about the first two Sam Raimi movies that to me feel groundbreaking. Spider-Man 2 in particular. And to a lot of people feel groundbreaking. You could make the argument that those were the two movies that really, really cemented the superhero genre as something important. Yes, X-Men and Blade came first, but to me, it was when Spider-Man came out and blew up that really changed the game. Now, Homecoming comes out. It's our third version of Spider-Man now. Third version of Spider-Man really at that point in just a little over 10 years. And in fact, I think Homecoming came out in 2017? So it would have been 10 years after Spider-Man 3. So in one decade, you go from Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield to Tom Holland, and there's some fatigue there. Your third version of Aunt May, your third version of the sort of, you don't get the origin of Peter Parker here. By Civil War, I think he's been Spider-Man for like 3 months. And you get the feeling that like all the stuff that happened in the Tobey Maguire movie happened. The spider bite, Uncle Ben being killed, the wrestling match. You just don't see any of it. And to me, that is one of the problems. And it's a problem that has no real good solution. I am a Spider-Man fan. I want to see those things. And I was thinking about it too. My granddaughter, I am excited to show her the MCU one day. I'm excited to put those movies on and have her watch the sort of universe build. It's a beautiful thing to watch Iron Man show up at the end of Hulk, and then Thor's hammer at the end of Iron Man 2, and then the Tesseract at the end of Thor, and then there's the Tesseract in Captain America, and then they've joined together for Avengers. It's a beautiful thing to watch it build. And you get decent origin stories for everybody, except Spider-Man. And people will say, well, we all know Spider-Man's origin. We all know Spider-Man's origin. My granddaughter doesn't. I can imagine her watching Civil War and going, I really like Spider-Man. What's he all about? And I'm like, well, you'll have to wait till the next movie to find out. And then we watch Spider-Man Homecoming, and she's like, I still don't know anything about who Spider-Man is. And I'm not saying they should have done an origin movie. I'm not saying that. But maybe a few sort of throwaway lines. Mention the spider bite. Nobody ever mentions the spider bite. Mention Uncle Ben. That's all you got to do. Have a scene where there's the scene in Civil War where Tom Holland says to Robert Downey Jr., when the bad things happen and you can do the things that you can do and you don't stop them, then they're your fault. He's clearly referencing Uncle Ben there. There's a line in Homecoming where he says about Aunt May, she's been through enough in the last year. Clearly referencing Uncle Ben. Just say it. Just say it. And it's not just that. Again, as a Spider-Man fan, there was a lot of crap given to the young lady who plays Mary Jane. MJ, whatever that. I don't even know if she's Mary Jane. They call her MJ at the very end of the movie like it's a big twist. She's not MJ. Not because she's not the correct race. I don't care about that. First of all, even though we just they just screwed up Gwen Stacy for a second time. Gwen Stacy was the appropriate high school character if you're going with Peter in high school. Gwen Stacy is who fans would have really liked to have seen. But if it has to be MJ, again, I don't care about her race. Make MJ black, make her Asian, make her Hispanic, make her whatever you want to make her. But you got to make her like a aspiring actress, girly girl, you know, you just got lucky tiger kind of chick, and she is not that. She's sort of that tough, you know, just everything that is the opposite of MJ. And again, you could say, well, it's an update, it's whatever. No, it's just taking a character and using their name and paying lip service without actually creating the character that fans love. So I want to move on to like my feelings about the franchise as a whole. So I will get my review out of the way. Spider-Man Homecoming, 3 out of 5 stars. It is still a very fun Spider-Man movie, if not a very consequential Spider-Man movie. That said, I watched the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home. And that movie was going to be a test for me. I've said before, this collection is coming to an end. The final MCU movie that makes sense for me to buy is Avengers Endgame. It's the end of Phase 3. It's the end of the first real saga of Marvel movies. The very next movie kicks off Phase 4 and kicks off a new storyline. And the very next movie is Spider-Man Far From Home, just a couple months after Endgame. And I thought, ooh, that's going to be so tempting to buy. It's going to be so tempting to buy. But I want it so bad. I'm going to go through withdrawals. What do I do? I watched the trailer and I sort of went, okay, I think I'll be fine. Not that the trailer was bad. The trailer looks good. But it's another Spider-Man movie. That's all it is. It's just another Spider-Man movie. When I was a kid, we all desperately wanted a Spider-Man movie. My best friend in high school, when James Cameron announced he was going to make a Spider-Man movie and that there was going to be an open casting call for Peter Parker, my best friend desperately wanted to go audition for it. This was sort of one of the big dream movies when I was a kid, was Spider-Man. Now, this is what, the Far From Home, this is like the 12th Spider-Man movie this century. And this century is not that old. I mean, we're in the first 20 years of this century, and we've already got like 12 Spider-Man movies. 3 Tobey Maguires, 2 Andrew Garfields, 2 Tom Hollands, his appearance in Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, Into the Spider-Verse, and to some extent Venom. And this is why, to me, I think Spider-Man could be the thing that brings down the MCU. This deal with Sony. Venom made money. Into the Spider-Verse made money. Sony has a deal with Marvel that ends after Far From Home. They don't have to keep making Spider-Man movies in the MCU, and I don't think they're gonna. I think that they're gonna say, we don't need you anymore, Marvel. Thanks for fixing Spider-Man for us now. Screw you. And they're going to turn around and they're going to make their own movies. They're going to stick Tom Holland in the Venom movie. They'll do a Spider-Man 3 that doesn't have a connection to the MCU. And it's going to start to get terribly confusing. They're going to do, what is that, Silver and Black movie. And Spider-Man will pop up in that. And it's like, wait, is this still the MCU? What's happening? We don't understand anymore. And I think that's when it's going to start to confuse people. They're going to start to be like, I think a lot of people went to Venom thinking it was an MCU movie. And I think that for me anyway, I love that he's fighting Mysterio. I would have preferred Kraven the Hunter. That's the movie that I've always really wanted to see Spider-Man in, but Um, Mysterio is a good classic villain. And I'm not saying I'm not going to go see Far From Home. I'm just saying, as far as having a place in the collection, I don't see a reason for it. It's just another Spider-Man movie. I don't know that it's going to be anything special, anything beyond that. And that's why, I mean, I was thinking about it. We're probably in like the next 10 years going to get at least 2 more Spider-Man reboots. You guys realize that, right? Tom Holland will be out. They're going to bring in another kid. That's going to flop. They're going to bring in another kid. And okay, now we're going to do Miles Morales. Now we're going to do, Back to Peter Parker. And let's do Spider-Man 2099. Let's do Spider-Man Noir. Let's do, 10 more Spider-Man animated movies. And I'm a little sick of Spider-Man. I hate to say it, but I'm a little sick of Spider-Man. After Endgame, I'm kind of okay with him going away for a while. He's not going to, but that doesn't mean I have to be engaged with those movies. It doesn't mean I have to follow every story. Oh my God, who got cast in Spider-Man 3? Who's going to be playing, whoever. I'm struggling to think of, like, they're not going to do Kraven the Hunter because I want Kraven the Hunter, so they're not going to do it. But who's going to be playing the rebooted Electro? Who's going to be playing the new version of Doc Ock? And I don't care anymore. It is what it is. They're going to make Spider-Man movies till I die. And even when they fail, even if 10 of them fail, they're going to make it 11th, a 12th, a 13th, because they don't know how to stop. That said, Spider-Man Homecoming, I am glad Spider-Man got into the MCU. That is the only excuse for a third reboot, is to bring Spider-Man into the MCU. So 3 out of 5 stars. It's definitely, to me, one of the mid-level Marvel movies. It's an Ant-Man. It's not a Civil War or Winter Soldier or anything like that, but it's all the MCU movies, even the worst of them, are still pretty good movies. So 3 out of 5. If you haven't given it a watch, which I'm sure you all have, go out and check it out.